What's up, everybody? This is Dark Macek with Brutally Delicious, coming at you the review of the Storyteller's brand new album, The Final Stand. Okay, so with a band name like The Storyteller, I was immediately interested. I tend to like albums or songs that take you on a journey, and with a name like that, you know this is going to be good, right? And what we've got here is exactly that. It's cool power metal that seems to tell a great story. I don't think my promo came with a lyrics booklet, and if it did, I didn't notice, so sorry. That is kind of my only regret, because I would have loved to have known what story is going on. Until then, I just got to use my imagination. Stylistically, I think I was mostly reminded of Kai Hansen, and I mean him as a songwriter, because there are moments that sound like Halloween, and there are a lot of moments that sound like Gamma Ray. There are, of course, some other bands sprinkled throughout in their sound, but I think that was the big one. And, you know, what better praise than being told you sound like the godfather of power metal? So there are a lot of standout tracks, and it's time to talk about them. First of all, this album has a beautiful intro track. Sometimes I make fun of these, but this one was actually incredible. It was simultaneously remorseful and wistful and uplifting. It's one of those 90-second acoustic tracks that comes before the first real song, and a lot of times I think it's unnecessary, but this time it was one of the standouts. The first real track then is It's Story Time, and this continues those feelings, though it's considerably more upbeat, but there's still this feeling of like looking back, maybe when you're on a ship and sailing away or something. It's more of a baritone-ish vocal than a lot of this band's sound-alikes would have, but still very good emotional delivery. The song is a great power metal chorus. I know I say that all the time, but hey, it's still hitting me and I'm still feeling it. Definitely Halloween influenced. I think this maybe could have been a Celador track. I really wish this had a lyric video because I would love to know what's going on plot-wise. Tower of Fear. There's some cool Gamma Ray style stuff. I can definitely hear the Kai Hansen influence on the songwriting and like a second level Iron Maiden influence, meaning that this was influenced by people that were influenced by Iron Maiden. AKA, kinda sounds like Gamma Ray. This Time Tomorrow. This is a great, upbeat, optimistic one. I know that sounds like what most people think of for power metal, but when we're comparing it to stuff like Gamma Ray instead of stuff like Stradivarius, you need to, bring in that little descriptor. In a way, I was thinking, like, you know how Demons and Wizards is a hybrid of Iced Earth and Blind Guardian? I feel like this is a collaboration of Blind Guardian and Kai Hansen. I know they already did that on like Lost in the Twilight Hall, but it doesn't really sound like that. That's a Blind Guardian track featuring Kai Hansen. This sounds like the two of them wrote a song together. Fields of Blood and Steel. I almost hear, I think, like the newer band Battleborn in this, minus the synths. Specifically in the intro anyway. The rest of the song reminds me of Blind Guardian in the best way possible. Sweet Lullaby. Now here's another really sweet acoustic track. It's a total like tavern song, ballad, whatever you'd like to call it, and I'm a huge sucker for those. I could hear it being in one of the taverns in Skyrim or The Witcher. I'd actually never really played that one, but I presume it sounds like that. And of course, it's in 3/4 time, which really sells the whole medieval feeling. They Will Fear Our Battlecry. This song could have been in Frozen, the Disney movie. At least compositionally, I could have seen them being a bunch of sailors singing this track. I don't think Disney's going to sing about battle cries, so when you throw that in, maybe it's like the barbarians in Skyrim singing it, but it's a really neat thing to hear on this kind of album. That is, it features no guitars, maybe there's an acoustic in the background, but it's not electrified. It's basically just a bunch of Nordic men singing, or men singing like Nordic men. Last but not least, Final Stand. Great power metal burner, great drumming, great melodies. At times I'm reminded of the track Tragedy and Triumph by Iced Earth, specifically in what I think would be considered the chorus, but the rest of it, more Kai Hansen influence stuff, which is just killer. Great way to close the album. Okay, so when I find a band I like, sometimes what I'll say at this part of the review is I'm going to go back and listen to their older stuff, and that's definitely true, but I think my to-do list for this band is listening to this again with lyrics in front of me, because I really got to know what's going on. I saw Ensiferum and Korpiklani last night, and the Nordic melodies on this album were a great follow-up to that show, but still, it's always great to get some more awesome, straightforward power metal. I do like the direction that bands like Battle Beast and Beast in Black have moved the genre, but sometimes it's great to get back to the roots, kind of like Guns N' Roses in the 80s among all of the, glam bands. Still, though, killer effort, possible album of the year. Thanks, dudes. Rock on.